Welcome to the bumps in the dark.
Listen if you dare. Listen if you dare.
The lake shimmered under the full moon's eerie blue glow, its surface unnaturally still. Dylan sat on a mossy log near the bonfire, eyes fixed on the sky, jaw tight. His friends, Lucas, Mark, and Brent, laughed as they passed around a bag of marshmallows, oblivious to his unease. "Man, I still can't believe we pulled this off." Brent grinned, tossing a marshmallow into his mouth. Midnight bonfire, full moon, no parents. Best night ever. Lucas nudged Dylan. "You good, dude? You've been quiet all night." Dylan hesitated. How could he explain the gnawing hunger, the burning beneath his skin, the way his senses felt sharper than ever? His hearing had become unbearable, picking up the distant rustling of leaves, the scurrying of animals, even the sound of his friends' hearts beating. "Yeah," Dylan muttered, forcing a grin. "Just tired." Mark smirked, tossing a peanut at him. "Tired? It's the best night of the year. You're acting like we forced you to come out here." Dylan didn't respond. He hadn't wanted to come. Something deep inside him had begged him to stay away. But he didn't want his friends to suspect anything. They wouldn't understand, because he wasn't sure if he was human anymore. The wind shifted, carrying an earthy metallic scent. Dylan stiffened. Blood. Somewhere nearby, something had just died. The scent curled around him, sharp and inviting, sending a shudder down his spine. His breathing grew ragged. His muscles tensed. His skin crawled like something inside him was trying to burst free. "Dylan?" Lucas asked, concern creeping into his voice. Dylan bolted to his feet, staggering back from the fire. His vision blurred, dark spots swimming at the edges. "I need to go," he gasped. Mark stood. "Go where? Dylan, what's wrong?" But he was already stumbling toward the trees, the pull too strong. He barely heard them calling after him as he sprinted into the forest, his limbs moving unnaturally fast. Then, agony. A deep, searing pain tore through him. His bones cracked. His skin burned as if it were stretching, reshaping. He collapsed to the ground, fingers digging into the damp earth. His breath came in ragged, strangled gasps as his hands curled into claws. His teeth lengthened and a snarl ripped from his throat. Mark had just managed to catch up and witness Dylan transform into a fearsome werewolf. Mark, terrified and in complete disbelief at what he just saw, darted back to the campsite to warn the others. Dylan fought within himself to regain control. Somewhere, deep inside the beast, he was still aware. The hunger was too much. The urge to hunt, to feed, was overwhelming. His human thoughts slipped away, replaced by primal instinct. And he wasn't alone. The wind carried another scent, one like him. A low growl rumbled through the trees, sending chills through his fur-covered spine. The original werewolf. Back at the bonfire, Mark was trying to convince the others of what had just happened. Lucas spoke. "Calm down, I'm sure you just imagined it. We need to find Dylan, now." Brent scoffed. "You guys are overreacting. He probably just..." A blood-curdling howl ripped through the night. The group froze, terror creeping up their spines. That sound... it wasn't human. A branch snapped behind them. "Run!" Lucas shouted. They bolted toward the trees, but the darkness swallowed them. Something massive lunged from the shadows, Dylan's twisted form barreling toward them. His claws raked the earth, his yellow eyes gleaming with hunger. But then, Another growl, deeper, hungrier. The second werewolf emerged from the trees, twice the size of Dylan, its fur a shadowy black against the moonlight. Its lips curled, exposing yellowed fangs dripping with saliva. It had been waiting for its next victim. "We have to stop them. Does anybody have any weapons?" Mark yelled. Brent only had a lighter. Lucas flicked open his pocket knife. But none of them had ever fought a monster before. The blade of the pocket knife radiated with a bluish glow under the moonlight. Dylan, or what was left of him, snarled at them, but his body twitched as if fighting himself. "Dylan, if you're in there, fight it," Brent shouted. Dylan lunged towards them. Brent barely dodged as its claws tore through his hoodie. The original werewolf charged towards Lucas. Lucas lashed out with his pocket knife, grazing the beast's arm. It shrieked, smoke rising from its fur as it recoiled. Dylan pounced again, not at his friends though, but at the other werewolf. For a moment, it was monster against monster, snarls and yelps filling the night. The ground trembled under their struggle, claws tearing through, bark, fangs snapping at throats. Then Mark realized why the pocket knife burned the beast. It was silver-plated. "Lucas, throw it!" Logically, Mark shouted. Lucas hesitated, but only for a second. He hurled the knife. Mark caught it. With a deep breath, he plunged the silver blade into the beast's chest. A bone-chilling howl tore through the air as the creature convulsed, then collapsed. The moment its breath stilled, Dylan let out a strangled cry. And the curse broke. The original werewolf who had turned Dylan was killed. Dylan's fur receded. His body twisted back into its human form. He gasped, staring at his hands. Normal hands. "Is it over?" Brent panted, clutching his bleeding arm. Mark exhaled shakily. "Yeah, I think so." As the first hints of dawn crept over the treetops, Dylan sat between Lucas and Mark, shaken but alive. "I could feel it," Dylan admitted. "Even when I was like that. I knew what I was doing, but I couldn't stop." Lucas clapped a hand on his shoulder. "But you did." Brent, still catching his breath, rubbed at his arm absent-mindedly. Mark frowned. "You okay?" Brent hesitated before pulling his sleeve down, covering the deep scratch marks from Dylan's claws. He forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine." But as he turned away, his stomach twisted. Because he knew the truth. It wasn't over.
Midnight fog, the shadows crawl, footsteps echo down the hall. Doors creak open, whispers sigh, something unseen is passing by. Lanterns flicker, the cold wind hums a warning song. Do you hear the drums? They whisper your name when the night turns black. No turning around, there's no going back. In black hollow streets where nightmares start, you'll find the bumps in the dark.